In a fast-changing global economy, how does Europe stay competitive? Protectionism or innovation?
Digitalisation is an enormous opportunity for Europe, and I think if we have the sort of policy building blocks in place in the next 5 years, I think Europe can actually succeed well. We need to put emphasis on creating data economy, governance on data as a whole. We need to focus on artificial intelligence much more than what we have done in the past, and I think the link with the single market is also of key importance in this respect.
The EU and within the European Commission, DG Competition and competition policy can play a very important role in a modern industrial policy to supporting European industries. As you know, competition policy assures a level playing field for all actors, for better qualities, bigger choice and better prices for customers and consumers.
Indeed, I think the single market is really the key building block of the success for the European industry as well. And this is an area where we in Europe as a whole should improve. And there's a potential to improve quite a lot. I think it would be important to look into the enforcement of the single market rules as well as to improve the functioning of the services market as well.
We're very much for free trade. However, free trade has to be fair trade. And as a result, if we just use one example, we believe, the lowest CO2 footprint in the whole of the Nordics. However, we pay the highest CO2 tax in the world. And what we would like is to have a recognition or a tax, whichever way, which allows for the amount of pollution to be rolled into the price, irrespective of whether you're a European producer or an Asian producer. So we would probably need a border adjustment to achieve that level.
European small and medium-sized enterprises are actually creating more than 90% of all the companies in the EU. They are actually the blood which is bringing new ideas, new processes, new products and new innovations we all so desperately need to be one of the best in the whole world in the industrial policy.
As the presidency, we have been working on what we call a sustainable growth agenda, which we hope will be there for the new Commission to take on board. I think the competition rules in the EU have served us well in Europe, and I think it would make a lot of sense to preserve the main building blocks of the competition policy also going forward. Obviously, competition policy needs to adapt to technological change and needs to evolve over time, but the fundamentals are good and they would need to be preserved.
State aid also plays a great role of proper industrial policy. You have the so-called bad state aid, you have the good state aid. The good state aid when you have market failure, when you want to beef up your R&D, when you want to beef up training, cleaner environment. And the bad state aid is, of course, when failed companies who are not competitive artificially kept alive with repeated subsidies. And there we have to be a little bit stronger, and we have the one-time, last-time bailout rule in Europe.
We touched a little bit on trade policy, and I think trade policy is pretty well defined in Europe. The one ask that I would have is the speed of which we react in Europe versus in other blocs. We've all seen that trade barriers have come up in the US, in China, in India, and they tend to come up overnight. EU tends to take a little bit more time in reaching a decision, and this can cause damage which is irreversible.